All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I want to say good evening to everyone in attendance, and thank you all for coming out tonight's chamber forum. I am your moderator for this evening. My name is Courtney Long. Most people know me in the community as Scholar. I am a business owner in Morgan City. I'm also a part of the St. Mary Chamber of Commerce Ambassadors, and I'm also a proud member of Toastmasters. So that's a little bit about me. And before we get started, I want to ask everyone to please stand for the invocation, who will be led by Brady Burrell, and followed by the pledge and Mr. Howard Castay.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can gather together as a community. We pray that we would come together with open hearts, open minds, that you would give these candidates wisdom, God, that the overall goal would be to protect the citizens of the town of Baldwin and St. Mary Parish as a whole. We pray that you would give us wisdom, guidance, and direction, and protect us as we go from this way. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you to Brady and Howard. Now, before we begin, I would like to thank and acknowledge our dignitaries that are here tonight that took the time out of their busy schedules to be with us. And they are Mayor Abel Field Prejean, Mayor Pro Temp Herbert Bell, and Baldwin Councilman Marion Newton. Is there anybody that we may have missed that came in later? Oh, Mr. Vappy. Okay. Joe Garrison, City of Franklin. Okay. Thank you. All right, we will begin tonight's forum with the candidates of the Town of Baldwin Chief of Police. They are, to my left, Mr. Tony Duran, Mr. Ronnie Fusley, and Mr. Anthony Gibson. Thank you, candidates, for joining us and giving St. Mary Parish an opportunity to hear from you. Now, a little bit about the ground rules. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to give his opening statement. As you see here in front of the stage, Ms. Tranisha Hayes is there as our timekeeper. She will hold up a sign. Tranisha, you want to show him? Hold up a sign when there is 1 minute remaining of your allotted time, and when your time is finished, she will ring a bell like so. Yep. So be mindful of that bell. Please be respectful of everyone's time this evening. We will begin with our introductions for this evening, starting with Mr. Duran.
My name's Tony Derwin, candidate for the Chief of Police here in the town of Baldwin. A little bit about myself. I have 20 years, retired from the Louisiana National Guard. Held several different positions while there, working in battalion combo shops, as well as infantry squad leaders, team leaders, stuff like that. I've also been in law enforcement since 2007, which I currently hold part-time position at the Baldwin Police Department. During those times, I worked at the General Police Department as well as Baldwin Police Department. Also, I've been in the fire service for 20 years. Currently, I am the Deputy Fire Chief out in St. Mary Parish, Fire District number 11. It's the Four Corners, Glencoe, Louisa, Websterville, Croppo Town area. Also, as your police chief candidate, we together can improve the town of Baldwin. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duran. Next, we'll have Mr. Fusley.
Good evening. I'm Ronnie Fusley. I'm one of the candidates also that's running for Chief of Police here in Baldwin. A little bit about myself. I've been doing law enforcement since 1996, 26 years. I've been still currently at this time, and I am employed with the Patterson Police Department at this time. I believe that, you know, we can improve Baldwin, and as with the community-wise, we work together, Baldwin to be a better place and a more happier place for the citizens that's living there in Baldwin to feel safe and secure in Baldwin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fusley.
Good evening.
Next, we have Mr. Gibson.
Good evening. Name is Anthony Gibson. I've been past Chief of Police of Baldwin under the Jeremiah administration. Also under Al Gross administration. I've been to numerous schools. Been post to St. Mary Parish Academy in 1991. I'm graduated Franklin Senior High in 1981. I hold many certification, Mad Mother Against Drunken Drivers, post, Crime Against Elderly People, post, Drug Administration, post. Also, I worked with IBA Parish School Board drill instructor, 14 years. Also, I work at IBA Medical Center, security officer. I bring experience with me to the town of Baldwin, training, willing to, my goal is challenge the past for a brighter future. I'm a father to two daughters, grandparents, 11 grandkids, 6 brothers, 5 sisters.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Now, the St. Mary Parish Chamber of Commerce invited the public to submit questions prior to this evening's score and has accepted questions from the public upon entry. For this evening's forum, I will pull, at random, 10 questions from this basket. I will repeat each question 2 times as necessary, and if you need me to repeat it again, just ask. Each candidate will have the opportunity to first answer the question with the 2-minute time frame, and then be allowed 1 minute afterwards for a rebuttal. Again, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and then a 1-minute time mark to rebuttal, 4 rebuttals. After all candidates have responded, if they so choose to, when the bell rings, your allotted time is finished. Please be respectful of the bell. All right, and so I'll pull the first question. All right, if you currently hold a full-time job, do you plan to commit to Baldwin PD full-time? Again, if you currently hold a full-time job, do you plan to commit to Baldwin PD full-time? Start with you, Mr. Tony.
If elected police chief, no, I do not plan to be full-time, but I will dedicate my hours that I do not work at my current job due to the salary that the police chief does get paid is not enough to actually make a living wage upon. Currently, I work from home. I do customer service all day. Once I am off and prior to going to work, I will be there at shift changes. That way I can get briefed by my officers of what has occurred that day or that night. Also, once I'm off from my full-time job, I will be out working patrol as well as my officers. If needed, as an officer shortage, yes, I will go out and I will pull my load as needed in the department. Once again, I do work. I do get off at 4:30 in the afternoons. At that point, until later that evening, I will be out on the streets. I will be out in the community on weekends as well. That way, my load is also carried from with the officers that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Durant. All right, next, I will repeat the question again for you, Mr. Fusley. If you currently hold a full-time job, do you plan to commit to Baldwin PD full-time?
As the chief of police in Baldwin, I would say yes, I would have to be committed to the town of Baldwin, because due to the fact you'd have to have an open door policy to where people in the community, if they have a problem, you need your chief there, not where you have to pick certain times for them to come in and visit with the chief or whatnot. I would say that would be a full-time job. Yes, I would commit to being there to hear the needs and the thoughts of the community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fusley. Next, Mr. Gibson, same question. If you currently hold a full-time job, do you plan to commit to the Baldwin PD full-time?
Yes, because Baldwin need a full-time chief. His responsibility as the chief, make sure that his officers are there patrolling, make sure what's coming in and out as a police chief, make sure that it's quick response time for officers, and want to hear the opinion of the public that they have a problem. They can't have a problem if they're not a full-time chief. So I want to be there if they have a problem. They can call on me. Yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I'll pull the second question. And Mr. Fusley, can you pull your mic closer to you, please? Oh, that's what you were coming for? All right, next up we have, what do you plan to do with all outstanding warrants? This question will go to Mr. Fusley. Starting with you, what do you plan to do with all outstanding warrants?
With outstanding warrants, the first thing you would have to do is get with the magistrate for Baldwin. There's a certain time limit that you have to enforce those warrants. You have to make sure and verify that those warrants are still yet active and they're still yet current within the time frame that they were issued. So that would be something that me and the magistrate will work along with to make sure to try to fix that problem, resolve that problem.
All right, and Mr. Gibson, same question. What do you plan to do with all outstanding warrants?
First of all, there's no time limit on one. One is served. What I'm planning on doing is work with the judge and see if the correction, work with the judge. And I'm planning on get with the sheriff department. If people don't pay no fines, I'm planning on giving the other agents. I mean, we'll go from there.
Okay. All right, now for question 3, gentlemen.
No, you missed him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did it the first time. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Tony. Go ahead.
That's all right.
What do you plan to do with all the outstanding warrants?
All right. As police chief, basically we have a filing cabinet full of warrants. Those warrants do occur. Some are for Baldwin residents, some are for other residents that do not live in the town of Baldwin. As police chief, I plan to work with all local agencies that we can get these warrants served, along with also working with the city attorney, verifying that all these warrants are still active. Working with the local agencies, St. Mary, Iberia, Generate, Patterson, Berwick, Morgan City, all of these agencies that these warrants that are misdemeanor that we can actually extradite a person from. Felony warrants will work with any other agency that is needed to assist in actually effective serving these warrants on those persons.
All right, thank you, and I apologize again for that mix-up.
Not a problem.
All right. Third question, we'll start with Mr. Gibson. As the chief of policing, to whom do you believe you are first and foremost responsible, and why?
The people. The people put me in as the chief of police. And I'm willing to work with the people of Baldwin. That's who put me in office. Next thing is the alderman and the mayor. Work with them. We can build a good relationship.
Mr. Dalron, same question. As the chief of policing, to whom do you believe you are first and foremost responsible, and why?
As chief of police, I am responsible to the citizens and non-citizens of Baldwin. Why? Because every person, not as well as citizens of the town of Baldwin, but everyone that commutes through the town of Baldwin, it is my responsibility to ensure their safety, their safe travels throughout the town of Baldwin.
All right, thank you. Lastly, Mr. Fusier, I'll get it right one time. As the chief of policing, to whom do you believe you are first and foremost responsible, and why?
First and responsible is to listen to concerns of the citizens of Baldwin. Again, their safety, the safety of the community, hearing what their problems is, and that's your responsibility. Second is the employees that you're working with. Like I said, the mayor, the council, and everybody else, that's a part of your team. You have to be able to communicate and listen and hear everybody that's coming through.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I think we're on question number 4. And that question is, what will you do for the morale, what will you do for the morale of the officers? What will you do for the morale of the officers? We're back to you, Mr. Tony.
All right, so for the morale of the officers, to raise morale for the officers, first, that comes from good leadership. Without good leadership, you cannot have morale inside of your department. Secondly, without good communication, you cannot raise the morale of your department. So to raise the morale in the department, we first have to have good leadership. Secondly, you have to have good communication. Third, we also will work with the council to increase pay, increase incentives to make people that work inside of our department feel as if they are more appreciated by the fellow city employees, council members as well. Also, get them out in the community. Let the community tell these officers how good of a job they are doing.
Thank you, and same question to you, Mr. Ronnie. First names works better for me. What will you do for the morale of the officers?
Morale of the officers is basically, it's like you're listening to your officers, hearing their problems, what they need equipment-wise, training-wise, listening to the people, what's going on with, like you said, in the community and everything else. The morale of the department starts from the top. It's from the chief on down. Leadership. When they do a good job, it's nothing wrong with patting them on the back, saying they're good job. You know what I'm saying? Response back from everybody in the department, including your mayor, your councils, everybody that has a say-so that's going on with the police department. Anything to make the officers feel that they're special. Second of all, I would say the same thing like he just said, raises, incentives, ranking, structure.
All right, now, Mr. Gibson.
I think the morale rates of level well-being can increase when officers knowing that they are being led by a dedicated leader. The police chief is the dynamic force of the department, and he is a hub. Moderate set the tone for all the faculty and staff members. Being an effective leader, take dedication, determination, self-regulation, and motivate to serve in the community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Now, I also want to remind you guys, if you want to rebut anytime someone says something, then you have 1 minute to do that if you choose to use that time. All right, now we're on to question number 5. And this question will go to Mr. Fusley first. If it stays open, let's see. All right, here we go. What would be the most immediate change, if any, that you would make in the department?
As a chief of police, the immediate change I would say is the partial of the structure. That's also the dealing with the officers out on the street. There should be, officers should also feel safe enough where he wants to go home in the morning too, where it don't be just one officer on the road at all times. I mean, the safety of the department is the main thing.
All right, now for you, Mr. Gibson, same question. What will you do? No, I'm sorry, the wrong question. What would be the most immediate change, if any, that you would make in the department?
My first priority is to evaluate each and every officer, each and every one of my staff members. The second thing is to make sure that we have quick response time to go on the scene.
Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Duran, same question. What would be the most immediate change, if any, that you would make in the department?
Most immediate change I would make would be amping up more patrols, adding officers to shifts where citizens can actually see more patrol officers patrolling, especially during our times of high crimes and our times where we have the most area where crimes occur, putting more police officers in those areas while working with the council to better get budgeting funding so we can also reach out to hire more officers to continue this as a ongoing occurrence.
Thank you. Would anyone care to give any additional remarks or a rebuttal?
My remarks is that it's all dependent on the budget, what you're working with. We can't say that we can hire additional officers if the money not there. If the money there, we can do it. If the money not there, we can't hire additional officers put on the road. We got to check and see what we're working with. If I'm elected, he elected, we don't know what kind of budget the chief in there have. My next step is that if we do work with the mayor and the alderman, and then if the money there, we can hire additional police officers.
All right, anyone else?
I'd like to add one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Also, Along with that, we also have part-time officers. We also have reserve officers. We'll work to get those part-time and reserve officers more active. That way we can beef up those patrols when we're needed.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, for question number 6, and this will begin with Mr. Gibson.
Okay, thank you.
If elected, what are the first 2 things that you will want to accomplish in office? If elected, what are the first 2 things that you will want to accomplish in office?
Well, first 2 things I want to see if I can hire additional officers. The second thing is that make sure each and every officer have the tools where they can do their job.
Okay. Next same question goes to Mr. Tony. If elected, what are the first 2 things that you want to accomplish in office?
First 2 things I would like to accomplish in office would be trust and structure. First, we have to gain the trust of the citizens. Second, we need to gain the trust of our council members to prove that as an agency, we can provide the services that the town of Baldwin needs. Second, structure. We'll have to restructure the way the department operates. We'll have to take people, move from one place to another place to ensure that our day-to-day operations as a department can effectively manage our workload that is put on by the general public with complaints. Without trust and structure, we have nothing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tony. Lastly, Mr. Ronnie. If elected, what are the first 2 things that you want to accomplish in office?
I agree with Mr. Tony. I get the gaining the trust of the community. Second out, the safety of the officers. Structure of the department, and basically what that being saying is the once you gain trust and the safety, the trust of the community and everything else, the community and the police department works together, and you're forming a bond there. So that has to be the first thing I would say, to gain the trust of the community, and the second thing to say is the safety of the officers.
Okay, would anyone care to give any additional comment or rebuttal? All right, we'll move right on along to question number 7. And this question will start with you, Mr. Tony. What distinguishes you from other candidates? What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
First thing is my work ethics. My work ethics are, when I take on a position, I try to get as much knowledge as possible on that position. As a person, I do not like to give an answer that I cannot back up. If I do not know my job effectively, therefore I cannot give you an answer. Also, I have 20 years in the military. I have a lot of various training through those 20 years. As I said in my opening statement, I served as an infantry squad leader. 2010, I deployed to Iraq as an infantry squad leader. 2005, 2006, I deployed to Iraq as a communication specialist. I believe with those 2 tasks, I have a better advantage on top of them due to the amount of training that I have. Also, I have roughly since 2011, it would be right at about 7 to 8 years of budgeting experience, assisting with St. Mary Parish Fire District 11 in creating their budget, maintaining their budget, and also monitoring the budget to make sure that we are not over budget in what we are doing.
Thank you. Mr. Ronnie, what distinguishes you from the other candidates?
I would say the years of experience that I have in law enforcement. I mean, as far as working as patrolman, shift leader, supervisor, the experience of investigations, and the question, I mean, if I can, dealing with people in the community, if you have no, how would I say it, the questions, if you can't find answers, they're helping people in the community, trying to find out the answers. If you don't, like you said, if you don't know the answers, you're trying to find answers to resolve problems, help problems.
Thank you. And Mr. Gibson, what distinguishes you from the other candidates?
I'm a lifelong resident of Baldwin. I'm well known with the people in Baldwin. I've been there all my life. People know me. As being the chief of Baldwin, people know you. They have trust in you. You know, you got to build trust with the community, the people. People know me. They know my family. Any kind of crime that goes on, I'm gonna know it. I'm gonna solve it because I'm a well-known person in Baldwin. I've been assistant chief there for 7 years. I investigate many crimes that people can report to me that where they have trust in other people. They have trust in me. They know me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Again, would anyone like to give any additional comment or rebuttal? Okay, with that being said, we'll go on to the question number 8. And this question will start with you, Mr. Ronnie. How do you feel about the current staff? Are they adequate? How do you feel about the current staff? Are they adequate?
Current staff, I believe they're doing their job to the capacity of what they're trained to do. There could be more training that needs to be done to better help the community in solving cases, solving crimes, and like I said, they're doing the best that they can with what we are working with, including in dealing with the, you know, they're saying about the budget and everything else. So they're doing I would say the best that they can, but training is definitely needed.
Mr. Gibson, same question. How do you feel about the current staff? Are they adequate?
When I said before, I have to evaluate everybody in my staff. Then I know what I'm working with.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Tony, same question. How do you feel about the current staff? Are they adequate?
The answer to that question would be a yes and a no. Yes, the staff is adequate. They are working to the capacity that they are trained to do. Once chief, if elected, the answer to the no portion would be give the employees of the Baldwin Police Department more training to better do their job as law enforcement officers, administrative, dispatchers, whatever their role is in the department. So the answer, yes, they are working to the capabilities of what they have. But they also, the answer of no, would be the lack of training that we do have on employees that do work for the town of Baldwin.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Again, any additional comments? Any rebuttal? Like to add anything? All right, so y'all been in the hot seat. Y'all almost there. We got 2 more questions. All right, I'll pull number 9. What will you do if you arrest a relative? This question is going to start with Mr. Gibson. What will you do if you arrest a relative?
What would I do? Okay, first of all, I'll let an outside agent come. And if I have any dealing with any of my resident, that way the person that came to me will get a fair chance. I want everything to be straight to the fact. During my campaign trail, like I say, if you kin to me, you can be kin to me. The same way you break the law, the same way you get arrested like anybody else. You know, I want to be fair. I want to be honest with people. If any one of my people do the crime, you do the time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Now for you, Mr. Tony, what will you do if you arrest a relative?
As in the past, in my law enforcement experience, when I worked in Jeanerette, I lived in Jeanerette. My family lived in Jeanerette. I've arrested several of my family members. Also, have investigated crimes dealing with family members. As police chief, if I arrest a family member, it will be investigated by my department, also calling up on the sheriff's office or another agency to also look into to have a fair investigation of the incident that has occurred. As police chief, if my family commits a crime, they can go to jail just like anybody else.
All right, and lastly for you, Mr. Ronnie, what will you do if you arrest a relative?
The eyes of the law have no shades to it. Family members, they break the law, they go to jail also. I mean, my thing about it is being fair but fair. If it comes down to the be where you need a necessary outside agency to come and make sure, I mean, that's fine. But the eyes of the law is there. If it's broken, you do your time.
Again, would anyone care to add anything to that particular question? All right, for the moment, I know y'all been waiting for the final question. Get a drum roll. And this question is going to start with Mr. Tony. How will you recruit and retain officers? How will you recruit and retain officers?
To recruit and retain officers, first thing we have to do is we have to work with the city's elected officials to increase pay, incentives to serve. We have to increase pay and incentives to service the Baldwin post and non-post officers. We need to maintain the budget to keep officers interested in working with our community. Second, we have to offer officers training. Not only do we want the town of Baldwin to have the best officers, but we also want to have our officers trained to where if they decide that they want to move to another agency, they do have the adequate training to do so. With adequate training, adequate pay, I do not believe an officer would want to leave the town of Baldwin.
All All right, Mr. Ronnie, how will you recruit and retain officers?
The pay is a part in recruiting officers. Also, the officer incentives, training, ranking. If I'm saying ranking is moving up in structure. You have to being treated also the officers as fair. But I mean, you have to have some type of incentive to have them working along with the mayor and councils again to raise the pay of the officers. So it's how to make that interesting for them to come to the Baldwin Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Ronnie. And lastly, Mr. Gibson.
The budget.
Oh, you got it? Okay, good.
Okay. The budget. Okay. I will also review the budget and see what type of incentives we could offer to recruit and retain officers. You're not going to get officers for a low amount of money. So we have to, the money there, once again, if the chief of police there now, if the money there, if I'm elected, then, we can recruit and train officers if the money's in the budget.
Okay, anyone care to give any additional comments or rebuttal at this time? Okay. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for first of all throwing your names in the hat. I know it has to be a sacrifice for you as well as your family, but we thank you for stepping up to put your name in the hat to run for this seat. And thank you for answering some of the questions that the citizens of the parish, especially in your area, posed. At this time, each candidate will have 3 minutes to summarize their candidacy. And we're going to start with Mr. Tony. 3 minutes to summarize your candidacy.
All right, my candidacy is based upon trust. Basically, like I said before, without trust from the community, we cannot accomplish much. Also, second, if elected chief of police in the town of Baldwin, I will serve as a non-biased chief of police. Does not matter. Last name does not matter. Race does not matter. No, I'm tongue-tied on that word. Basically, it does not matter race, religion, creed, anything of that nature on how my job will be performed. As chief of police, also, I do promise that the officers that we do have, also officers that we do get, will be well trained to do their job correctly and to do jobs of their subordinates as well. Each officer of the Baldwin Police Department will be offered training throughout the state that is given for free. The only thing the department would have to pay for would be possibly a room and board, depending where the classes are. So during my candidacy, I have promised, or I have committed to, getting the department the training, the staffing that we need, working with the council so that we can better the budget to get the officers that we need.
All right, now Mr. Fusley.
Me as chief of police, my thing would be is to make sure to gain the trust of the community, also the safety of our officers. Again, training comes into play with the officers also, working together with the mayor and council to see we can better arrange the budget to get better officers and more officers attracted to come to the Baldwin Police Department. Hearing, listening to the community, or saying what they have to say. Is having an open door policy, being fair but firm with everyone.
Lastly, Mr. Gibson, 3 minutes to summarize your candidacy.
By being chief of police in Baldwin, I know what it takes to bring officers to Baldwin. You got to have good leadership. I'm planning on bringing community police back to Baldwin, where each and every officer will have to know the citizen like I do. When you go on call, you're not guessing what a person's staying at. That officer should know exactly what address that person's staying. On my campaign trail, I had a young lady told me, Mr. Gibson, I sleep on the floor at my house at night. I promise her if I'm elected, that we will have more patrol. You won't have to sleep on your floor. You know, as mothers that parents that been that witnessed their kid been killed by bullets. I never want to have that in my town, because I'm planning on bringing more patrol. I asked the sheriff department to come and get some assistance. Once again, it all depends on the money in the budget that we have. If we don't have money in the budget, well, we just had to work what we got. I plan on giving my officer more tools to work with. Also, if the council and the mayor give me the tools to work with, I promise the people in Baldwin I will do my job. I promise them, as your leader, the chief of police, I've been there, I know what I'm doing, I'm one of the most experienced candidates. Go out and vote number 79, Anthony Gibson, we'll get the job done. Thank you. God bless.
Again, I want to thank all you gentlemen for taking your time out to participate in the Chamber Forum, and also to the audience members for exercising your civic duty and actually being here to hear these candidates out. Now I'm going to bring up our Chamber President, Mrs. Beth Chasson, as she will close us out. You going to stay down there? Okay.
Rather than walk across the stage, I just want to quickly thank our timekeeper and my assistant, Tranisha Hayes, for all of her hard work for this event and all of the forums that we've put together. Our moderator, of course, Mrs. Skyla Long, our candidates for being here, our media partners, KBZE 105.9 and KQKI 95.3, who are here live broadcasting. You'll be able to find the feeds if you want to rewatch or share them. And, of course, the candidates. I've already thanked you. And everyone who came out tonight to listen. Lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Tiger Verdon, our chamber chairman, and the board of the Teche Theater for Performing Arts for allowing us to use this space for tonight's forum. Feel free, please, to use the time that we have remaining to meet with the candidates, ask them any questions that you may have. Thank you for joining us, and have a safe trip home.